My name is Chris Taylor. I'm a master saddler and harness maker and the owner of Saddler's Den. Our core business is actually equestrian, but we do many other things. In front of me here I have a saddle which I've been working on. My apprentices at the moment, one's working on replacing the backs on our leather chairs and the other is working on making a belt. We don't only do equestrian, we also do things like bag making. In fact, there's actually very little we can't make out of leather. My background actually is very, very varied. I went to college, I was actually trained as a marine radio operator. I left college and did a lot of other jobs. And I actually ended up as a computer programming analyst. I'd always done leather work as a hobby, and when I got my own horse, I looked at the equipment that was involved and I thought, well, I can do this. Because I've always been one of these people that like to tinker with things and like to take things apart and like to see how they were made. So I started going to auctions and buying old bits of tack, started ripping them apart and then remaking them. And then from there, the interest grew and grew. When I was at school, I was very much a practical person. I always enjoyed working with my hands, so the subjects that I liked were things like tech drawing, woodwork, metalwork, and I have to admit that I wasn't a great academic. But one thing I would like to say to people, academia doesn't really matter in this trade, so long as you've got a basic literacy and a basic numeracy. The most important thing is an aptitude for the job and a little bit of dexterity. But also, I think you really need a mindset whereby you've got an attention to detail, that you're really passionate about what you do, and that no matter how good a job you do on something, the next one's always going to be better. And that's the mindset we're looking for.
Hi, I'm Louise. I'm a master saddler and master harness maker here at Saddler's Den. I grew up in North Devon. I've ridden all my life. In my hometown, there was a beautiful little saddlers called W.T. Johns, and I excitedly went in there on a Saturday morning, spent my pocket money and decided that was what I wanted to do. I had a careers interview at school when I was about 14 and they said, Louise, what would you like to do when you leave school? And I said, I'd like to be a saddler, please. Their response was, a what? The first woman I saw wasn't interested at all. She was, well, how about going to North Devon College? How about more traditional routes, nursing, that type of thing? And I went away with leaflets and no information at all. 6 months later, I had another careers interview and he sat me down and said, so, what would you like to do when you leave school, Louise? I'd like to be a saddler, please. Wow, how interesting. He saw it as exciting and a bit different from the norm, not academic. And he got in contact with a local harness maker and said, I've got a young lady interested in your field of work. And the harness maker contacted me and said, I'm interested in giving you an apprenticeship. So yeah, that careers interview was much better. I took on a 4-year apprenticeship daily, and then I went to college at the training centre in Salisbury 1 week every 2 months and did my exams and the more formal side in Salisbury. When I was 21, I went to Australia, did the travelling, so put my career on hold. Got married, had my children, moved to Southport and needed a job. So luckily for me, there was a local saddler called Chris Taylor who was happy to provide me with a part-time job. So with that, I hadn't done it for a long time, did various jobs in between, but the skills that I'd learned 20 years previous were still there. It's a very individual trade. People are always fascinated by what we do. They think we saddle up horses all day. I say no, we make things out of leather, which people are amazed by because, well, you buy it. Nobody makes it, you just buy it. It's made in a factory. No, it's made with these hands. And yeah, very rewarding.
I'm Gabrielle. I work at Saddler's Den at Southport and I'm an apprentice saddler. So I started here a couple of months ago. So I've not been here very long, but I've basically learned the foundation skills of being able to measure everything out, cut it to size, and then prepare all my materials to be made and stitched up so that you can get the product at the end. I've been riding horses and had my own since I was about 3, so I've always been in the equestrian world. I was quite into engineering at school, and I was really into biology and animals, so leathercraft kind of ties them both together for me. I knew Chris, the owner, previously as my saddle fitter, and that's how I got on to doing my work experience here. So I did all the summer of 2019, just did 3 days a week, and since then fell in love with the job. So straight after finishing high school, I decided to come on as an apprentice.
I'm Annie, I work here as an apprentice. I'm training to be a saddler after 4 years here. I got here after going a bit of a different route. I went to art college and then I decided to go to university, and then I decided that wasn't for me. So I went to go work with my family business, which is a saddler wholesaler, and from there I decided, because I'd never really heard of a saddlery apprenticeship, but from there I heard about it and I was like, yes, that is what I want to do. So kindly Chris let me come here and I've loved it ever since. My favourite subjects at school was art and design technology. I loved them. They were the ones I really only focused on. So I think those have come in very handy here because I've always wanted to make things, I've always wanted to create things. But I also love nature and biology and that, which I think comes in handy here as well because you're working with animals, so it all links quite nicely.
The saddlery helps to make sure that the horse is comfortable and make sure that everything fits and works and is functioning properly. But it's also the crafting side of it. So half the time I'm working and making things or repairing everything, and other times we'll be going out saddle fitting, seeing lots of different people and different horses from all over the place.
It's exciting to learn a new skill, but be on the job as well. You're not just in a lecture learning something, you're actually making something. It feels quite successful at the end of the day when you've made something and it's going to be used.
It's learning a skill while on the job. So I go to college for a week at a time every few weeks. So I'm still learning, but in the meantime I'm actually practically doing the craft, which I think is quite good in the way that people can be more involved in what they want to do and your skills develop a lot quicker.
On-the-job training in our job is extremely important because you can teach them all the theory you like in a classroom, but until they actually get the tools in their hands, they have no idea how to actually use them and how to use them safely. Our apprentices will not only make new stuff, but they'll also do a lot of repair work. And the repair side of things may sound mundane, but actually it's an extremely important part of the learning process because by repairing stuff, you get to understand how it's made, you get to understand how it goes back together, and you get to understand stresses and strains. The advice I'd give to anybody who's looking to come into the saddlery trade, or any craft trade really, is to see if there is anybody in your area and just go and ask them if maybe you could spend a day with them and make sure that it really is for you. There are two ways to come into certainly the saddlery trade. One is you find a master saddler who would be prepared to take you on as an apprentice. The other way is to go through a place called Capel Manor College. Capel Manor College is down in Enfield and they run a full-time saddlery course.
I would say follow your dreams. I wanted to do this when I was at school. I absolutely loved my apprenticeship, very rewarding career, and I still thoroughly love my job.
The feeling you get when you've made something and you actually see it being used is quite tremendous. I'm in the 60s and I still get a real buzz when I see something that we've made being used on a horse.
Before I started here, I had no clue that it was really an option for me to become a saddler and do this craft. So I think it's just getting more exposure onto trades and making it a lot more accessible for lots more people to kind of do it.
I think at my school we were encouraged to go to university and we weren't told about apprenticeships. But I think it would have been so useful at that age if I'd been told a bit more and what was out there, what was available. And then I think maybe I would have taken a different route.
What I would sort of say to young people is not to be discouraged. You're always going to get setbacks. Certainly in this trade, It's very difficult to find somebody to take you on as an apprentice, but don't be discouraged. If you are waiting, then do as I did. Pull some stuff apart, maybe see if you can work out how it goes together. I can honestly say that since being a saddler and since doing this job, I've never woken up in the morning and thought, oh my God, I've got to go to work. It's one of those jobs which I thoroughly enjoy what I do. It's so diverse that no 2 days are the same. So I think that's what I love about the job, and I just love working with my hands.